Okay, well, I've just pressed record. We're gonna dive in. We have a few folks joining us. There will be some more folks joining us as we go. Hello and welcome, Mika. Nice to see you. Okay, so the nature of today, we're going to be into to cultivating confidence, and we're going to be spending the next hour and a half together. And I'm recording this first 45-minute section where I'm going to be talking a little bit about confidence and really how to build it and how to power it up and the role that it could play in your career or your endeavors. And then at around the 45-minute mark, we're gonna press stop on the record function, and then we're gonna open up the floor a little bit for a live interactive coaching session. Because right about now, it seems like we could all power up on a little more confidence and figure out, well, what does true confidence look like? I'm sure we've all seen characters exuding what we think, or maybe the movies or the TV has sold us on what confidence should look like, and sometimes it comes off as being really aggressive. Maybe it's brash. Maybe it's a whole lot of posturing. Maybe it's angry sounding words. And at the end of the day, is that really confidence? Well, I don't know. I'm not really sold on that flavor of confidence, but I do recognize, after having coached thousands of people through career transition and really help people sort of identify what their core strength is and how to move forward with it, that confidence has a huge role to play in carving our path. So what if we don't feel confident right now? I think a lot of us, probably in at least some parts of our lives, have areas where we can improve or elevate our levels of confidence. So I'm gonna propose to you a radical notion that your level of confidence that you have is not innate and fixed. In fact, I bet there are things that you can confidently do now that as a 6-year-old you couldn't. And when you were just starting off in your career, I'm sure you had some hesitancies around areas that are now comparatively effortless for you. So I'd like to breathe into that, and there's a lot that can be done in terms of embodying confidence, because confidence doesn't just live in our minds and our words. It actually lives in our bodies. So I'm going to take a minute, and if you'd like to breathe with me, I like to do this practice of breathing in concepts, because we're all breathing in air, and there's the quality of air content that relates directly to the physical air, but there's also the energetic content of the air that we breathe. And if we choose to tune in to the finer end of the spectrum of what's possible for us, then we might be able to ground. In fact, I'm certain that we can ground our centers of gravity in an area of ourselves that promote progress, that make things a little easier. When we feel stuck, and everybody can feel stuck from time to time, things seem really hard from that place. And when things seem hard, well, feels like confidence might wane. So we're going to reverse this process a little bit. So if you're sitting down, you might want to do feet flat on the floor and hands directly on top of your knees. If you're standing up, as I am, you might want to stand feet shoulder width apart and roll back your shoulders a little bit. And then breathe into a few things. It's like, I am confident we're in times of change. I'm confident that I have learned many things along the way. I am confident that I can decide to be confident about wherever I'm going next. When I look at the real trace of results that I've created, I draw confidence from these things. I'm confident everything is going to work out, even though I don't know how yet. I'm confident I have all the tools and resources I need. I'm confident that I have a network that would love to support me if only knew how. I'm confident that I am sincere in my approach, and good things will bound to come from that. I am confident that I will be able to put to work all of the learnings I have gathered and accumulated over the years. I am confident that I can create greater value than I ever could. I'm confident that because I understand people a little better than I used to, I can create better circumstances. I'm confident that I will get behind my visions, my words, and my actions, and so forth. So you may choose to do something like this every day if powering up on confidence or repeat messaging is something that's helpful for you. I find very often people can tune into affirmations that will allow them to really power up the best of themselves. You see, we all have a spectrum, right? And sometimes when we're growing up, you can get used to kind of categorizing people or situations or things based on their high or low end, whatever you see. But I think we've all lived long enough to know that, hey, we've experienced some peaks, whatever that may look like to you or me, and we've experienced some troughs. And this is really a wonderful offering that I've been really blessed to help NABS with over the last 9 years. We've helped thousands of people transition from one job to another, or one phase of their career or lives to another. And certainly in the media, marketing, and advertising world, this is a world where it's high transition. There can be client changes on a Friday, and the entire HR landscape looks different on a Monday. And often, without notice, we find ourselves needing to bounce back and discover a level of resilience that we might not have had before. Right? So I love helping people with this because I think there's a better story to each of us than we're used to telling. Certainly a better story than we tell ourselves when the things are tough. Right? And I think there's a lot of confidence that comes from storytelling. There may be some folks that are fairly new to transition, and maybe you haven't even taken that step to update your resume or your biography. I would like to encourage you to do that. It'd be very wise to get a coach or someone who can work with you to help you see objectively what is the value you've created, what is the work that you've done, and what's the impact that you have created in the different phases of your career. What does it all kind of boil down to in terms of a promise for now? Because you know how to create more value now than you did 5 years ago. Because whatever you've been up to for the last 5 years, I'm sure you've been accumulating some wisdom. You've been accumulating some capability. You've been accumulating greater sensibilities about how to deal with people and how to create great results. Now we may have designers on the call. I know we've got videographers and video directors. We've got program managers. You got some folks that manage the business end of things, and some folks that manage the creative side of things. And yes, we're all creative, and there's also a necessity for us to champion our own affairs and manage our businesses, with strength and capability. But this would be a time if anyone here is in transition, and this is really primarily set up for folks that are looking to make some sort of career change, some sort of shift into producing more value. How can you leverage the strengths of who and what you actually are? You don't have to fake it till you make it. There is a way to kind of sort of step inside and go, oh, when I look back at the trace of my career or the trace of jobs or projects I've taken on, there's probably a golden thread through there. There's something, Mika, that you do in projects that other people don't do. Beverly, there are ways that you approach your art that is really different to the way that other people approach art. And this is part of your story. And everyone has a story. Too often, we find ourselves relying on the world to tell our story. You might see evidence of this if you go to LinkedIn and you see what people's headline is. They might just accept the automatically rolled over option to to say that your title is exactly who and what you are. Well, whatever job you have, the title's part of it, but you're more than your job. You're more than whatever your latest project is or whatever you're working on now. I'm sure all of us have a greater overarching story that allows us to do our job with greater insight, with greater capacity. Right? So back to the storytelling piece and saying, if you haven't looked at your resume for a little while, or even your LinkedIn, probably a very good time to do that. And a good time to do that where you start is, well, what's your favorite business problem to solve? What kind of organizational issues do you like to help with? Or if you work one-on-one with people, what is the solution that you're looking to achieve? If you're an artist or a creator, what is the overarching theme in the work that you're bringing to the world? And I'm sure that there are ways of seeing that are maybe a little less dismissive than your old way of seeing that. So welcoming new folks to the call, welcome in. Today we're really focusing in on looking at confidence and cultivating confidence and confidence as a way of being. There's a lot of fear talk in the world today. People being afraid of people with other ideologies, people being afraid of catching sicknesses, people afraid of being fired or being promoted into a role they're not ready for. Fear can take on all kinds of different Halloween costumes, but fear is one of those things that if we don't embrace it and take steps with it, accept that it's actually going to be a part of any sort of breakthrough you have. If you're feeling a little bit nervous or apprehensive about, starting your new job on Monday, then okay, well, that's okay. You can actually, work with it, dance with the fear, as some may say. But looking back at your career, there's going to be ways of recognizing what confidence looks like, right? So I would ask a question, and this would be for each person to reflect on after that call. What do you choose to be confident in? What are you confident about? For some people, they may be confident that they don't know all the answers, but they're confident that they're curious enough to find the answers that matter. Some people are really confident that the world is going to look different this year. Some people can be confident that you're going to get great work. And part of that confidence that will allow you to get the great work is to really understand what that great work looks like. There may be some people that are active on LinkedIn. I recommend you be active on LinkedIn, especially if you're looking for work, because that is the social platform that was set up with commerce and trade and business in mind. And maybe there's some folks that have spent a little bit of time at a few different companies or a few different organizations along the way. I bet there's someone in each of those organizations that would probably have something really good to say about you. I bet you have advocates and supporters you don't even know. And so this is one of the reasons why I think networking has a very important role to play, because at different phases of your career and your life, you've connected with different people that have gotten to see some of your talents in action, that would probably be very happy to introduce you to someone that you may need an introduction to, because really finding work is tapping into the hidden job market. 85% of jobs are not even advertised. And when I'm coaching folks that are going through transition, I'm generally finding that most people's idea of a job search is sitting passively on LinkedIn or Google and seeing, well, what jobs are being advertised right now. And it's like, why would you go for the overcrowded 15% that probably isn't even a directly great fit for you because you're just being reactive? Well, one of the things that confidence may encourage and inspire you to do as a job searcher and a transitioner is to look for what fit looks like for real. Perfect fit. If you could dream, what kind of people do you want to work with? There are all kinds of people. There are all kinds of bosses. Some people really like very prescriptive, directive bosses. That gives them the confidence to know that they're doing the right thing. Okay, great. If you want that kind of paradigm, find a boss like that. There are tons. But there are also plenty of bosses, certainly in the creative space, that hire bright, wise people to tackle a business issue or to solve a creative challenge, and that's with you, right? And if you're a creative that doesn't like to be overmanaged, then you can bring your confidence in your problem solving and creative solving capacity to that client or boss, and take ownership of the issue in a big way. The when you're applying for a role, there's a visual I'd like you to imagine. And when you're applying for a role, whether it's a role that already exists, like someone has already decided that, oh, there's a budget for it and there's a job description that goes with it and we know what we're looking for, which is probably less than half of jobs that are available, right? The other half plus are the ones that we need help and we don't even know what to call it and we don't even know how to price it, and we need to just find the right person, and if we get in the right conversation, then they're going to help us understand what we need. There's a whole field of opportunity there that I would like to nudge everyone to consider, because it's underleveraged and undercrowded, and it's a hot market. There's a lot of need for talent right now. In 12 years of making career coaching the primary focus of my work and life, I've never seen so hot a market. And it seems kind of counterintuitive when you think about everything that's going on in the world, and what the news is suggesting is out there, or how people are feeling a little more apprehensive about being close with people. The reality is the market's hot. And there's a little bit of a war for talent that has been forecast for a long time, and part of, I guess, I'm not like the war-minded person, but if you're going to champion an endeavor, boy, you really want to make it easy to be found. If you've gone through the work of figuring out, well, what kind of work do I want to do, and what kind of people do I want to work with, then you can start to figure out, well, how do I communicate in a way that helps them understand what my pure and sincere confidence is. Confidence comes from following things through. Confidence comes from making a promise and delivering on it. When you're confident in the brands or people that you choose to say yes to, probably somewhere along the line they've kind of promised to do something and they followed through and actually were that thing they promised. There are people like global brands. Boy, there are tons of people going around the world. They used to travel to go and experience cultures as they are. But now it's like, oh, they can get the reliability of the brand they know in that country. And why? Because it's going to follow through on that promise, and it's going to meet all the expectations. And you know what a Starbucks is supposed to feel like when you go in it, wherever you are in the world. Okay, well, what are you supposed to feel like wherever you go in the world? And that's for you to decide, right? Because, some people love to be responsive and reactive. Some people like to be right in the heat of having to make 100 great decisions an hour. Some people like to have one really important decision to think about for a good couple of weeks. Those are very different roles and very different dynamics. There may be someone here that may be a creative director. We get a lot of creative directors that come through these meetings, and in creative directors, it's like, wow, this is a big responsibility. You're there to direct creativity, and if you're directing creativity, well, you're going to be probably pretty good at listening to the underlying, business objectives or organizational objectives. What is this creativity there to solve, and then in what dynamic, like how to solve it. And when you've got that visual where you're imagining, like when you're applying for a job, you're taking that responsibility off of someone's shoulders and putting it squarely on your own. You're saying, yes, I will own this issue inside out. I want to be fully accountable. An old trick I learned early on when doing resumes, some people would say responsible for. And then, if you look at that word and you say, well, accountable for. And if it's true, if you were really fully accountable and you can claim that and declare it, the value of your resume just goes up a little bit. because what people get from that is that you're going to own what you are. If you're a director, then you could be expected to direct. And we all have like the part of us that's a doer and the part of us that's a manager and the part of us that's a leader. And knowing that you've been a leader about the things you've been responsible for, whether it's been as a manager or an independent contributor. They're all valuable roles everywhere, but knowing that, okay, you are the one who is truly responsible for your brand. You are responsible for how every interview goes. You are responsible for how your interviewer feels. And, if you choose to accept this responsibility, then the chances are you're probably going to engineer a very effective conversation. Because, people might not really care about what you know until they know how much you care. And so if you're in interview dynamics, some people might go there with this feeling of like, oh, I need to be seen and they need to know about that accomplishment, and that accomplishment, and that accomplishment. I'm going, no, they might, they might be good for them to know about it, but it doesn't matter at all until they like you. It doesn't matter until there's that sense of connection of going, okay, wow, this is a person I could really imagine working with. Okay, now they start looking for proof points. What are they going to tell their boss about why hire that person? What has given them confidence? And confidence is such an important one. And it's just, I'm excited to see that there are a good number of folks here loading up on that, because as we move into the unknown, confidence is our greatest ally. I'm going to have a great year of work. I know it. I know it because I believe it and I want it to be so. And I'm doing the work to achieve that. And I'm making the space to honor it. And I'm meeting the people I didn't even know I needed to meet, because I'm getting more clear about what issues I'm uniquely qualified to solve. You may be a program manager and there may be 3 other program managers on the call. But each one of you will probably resonate with a different kind of environment. And in a world where if people feel like their confidence fades a little bit, you can fall into the trap of having to, amend your self-view and your self-presentation to feel like you can fit with what's being asked for in a job description. And you feel like, oh, okay, then you kind of, let me go see if I can squeeze myself into this square hole, It doesn't have to be that way, because whoever's creating those holes is also doing a creative exercise. And, when we talk about confidence, confidence can tap you into the hidden job market. Confidence can buy you permission to get the attention of someone who can only really draw in energy from someone who's meeting them with some of that energy. So when you know what business problems you love to solve, when you know what creative challenges are exactly in your sweet spot, and you can speak to that with conviction and real joy. If you love your work and you love your life, you're doing work that matters. Right? And the work that matters to you should probably matter more to you than most other people. Right? I'm happy that they're accountants, that numbers matter more to them than they do to me, it seems. Right? Because I love teaching and I love coaching and I love to have that my core focus on the areas where I feel like I'm making the greatest impact. Do I have to, as the CEO of my own brand, manage all aspects, including taxes and sales and marketing, all of that? Well, yeah. But how can I spend as much time as possible doing the work that energizes me and fuels my purpose and energizes the people I work with? Helps them have the breakthroughs that really inspire me to keep coaching. Here's another activity for you. If you're making a little list of homework activities, what kind of breakthroughs do you love to participate in? There are so many different kinds of breakthroughs. Breakthroughs in relationships. People in business development love relationship breakthroughs. Imagine being able to like have conversations with someone who wouldn't make time of day for you, 4 months ago. And then all of a sudden you change your energy and you change your ask and you change your approach and you tune into what they need more than you ever did before, and all of a sudden you're on their radar. You have permission to have a conversation that when you were in a different headspace, you might not have had permission to have that conversation. This is why it's very important you never give up on your network. Sometimes when folks are quick into transition and they want to reach out to their network, they might find that people don't always take their call right away. And I've met people that have slipped into that emotional trap of going, oh, well, you know who your friends are. Or then it becomes whatever other story you tell. And hey, negative stories love the company of other negative stories. The more you entertain negative self-talk, the more is there for you to pull. It's like a clown pulling that fabric out of the sleeve. It never stops. And I'm saying, hey, reverse the process a little bit and just go, hey, there are some things that are so purely and truly, sincerely you don't have to hide them. You don't have to keep them away from your work. In fact, sometimes the very things that, might have seemed like a bit of a distraction at first, that some hobby, maybe you're really into an art or a craft, or you're a great illustrator, or a great musician, or photographer. Doing these things while you're on the job search is so important because it keeps your energy level up. It keeps that bright light shining out of your eyes that makes people want to work with you. The last thing you want to do on job search is cut yourself off from yourself. And too many people do that. And that's a sure recipe for disaster because your real confidence is with you. And, whether you're the most organized or the least organized, you can own it, right? Whether you're a person who is really exceptional at having these out-of-the-box breakthrough ideas, or maybe you're a person who's just really exceptionally fluent at executing them. You don't have to be all things to all people. You really don't. And part of powering up confidence is imagining, well, what's your minimum viable market? If you were be doing the stuff that you really love, that you come home, that you look forward to on a Monday, and you look back at the end of your month and say, that was pretty cool. Maybe you're meeting all of your material objectives, but in addition, you're building relationships and you're doing high impact work and you're packaging it up well. Back to confidence as storytelling. It's very important to promise, deliver, and then show that you've delivered on that promise. It's like a 3-step thing. Some people who are less into managing, the whole relationship dynamic, they might be just catch the football, do it, forget to talk about it. Goes to updating the resume, maybe they stay in one place for a long time, and then they're trying to remember what they did 5 years ago. Maybe they've forgotten, maybe they've lost the relevance. Maybe there's some things in your own career that you've done exceptionally well that looked at with the light of your new promise. When you reconsider the stuff you really want to do now, oh, maybe that thing you did back in 2017 became important again. Oh, I thought that was a distraction, but now I see what it's taught me has expanded my management capacity. So now I'm better able to work with partnership integrations, let's say. Maybe there's some people that started their career working as an independent contributor and then ended up moving into the management space. And then maybe along the way some of that the business focus became all consuming. And then, okay, what about your creative life? How are you going to stay creative? Yes, it's a very creative thing to create a revenue pipeline. Business development is fundamentally creative. You are making something happen, and being able to create that impact, to initiate, to decide what you're going to do, and then find out, well, who else believes in what you believe in? Who else wants to make the world the way you want to make it? There are some people who are highly organized, but work really well going into kind of disorganized environments. Maybe they're the organizer. Maybe they have the skill of being able to pull things together and do it in a way that doesn't upset the social fabric of the organization. That's a real gift. Change leaders. Maybe you have new technology to bring. Maybe you have ways of efficiency that you bring to different projects. Maybe you have a level of consistency. People always know what to expect and get in working with you. These are all forms of confidence. And whether you're optimistic or pessimistic, there's confidence behind that. I think Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Well, that's two different confidences, actually. You're either confident in a negative outcome or you're confident in a positive outcome. So I think that while we're in transition, there's great wisdom in being able to be strategically optimistic. Your future requires you to be optimistic because your optimism will help you start conversations with people. Your optimism will help you identify opportunities that people who are fixed in status quo might never see. Right? So in terms of, cultivating a perspective, you might want to make some broad scale decisions about the overarching story of your career. I hit a point, 15 years in working in agency world. I started in a junior role and moved up and eventually became office manager, head of HR, head of marketing, head of knowledge management, worked locally and globally. And it's like, wow, it hit this point where it's like, okay, now I have to go and do something on my own where I'm focusing more in on the high end of what I was doing. When you're starting your career, you don't really know that much about what work is. You know your area, you learn things. If you're really curious, you might learn a lot. But what I see is happening to a lot of folks in marketing and advertising industry and the creative space, if we started in agencies or creative organizations, there's a high likelihood that we're going to be moving into a portfolio career. We're going to probably have a few different clients, do a few different things for. Which really sort of begs the question, what's that thing you're going to be known for? What is the world going to be confident about you in? In terms of what you can promise and expect and deliver, your vibe will attract your tribe. And by being really confident about the things you choose to be confident about, you are fashioning a magnet, which is a big part of the sport of transition. Whatever you attracted 2 years ago is a lot different from what you want to attract this year, I would imagine. Certainly if you're on a growth path. So you can set the parameters for your own growth. You can determine where you will draw confidence. Me, I love helping people. I really love finding out, okay, who are you for real? Knowing that, we're all a bit of a range, and often some of the high end of who we are is kind of invisible to people. And when most of us are going on feeling like maybe not quite recognized at the level of what our true potential is, it becomes hard to sell that in the world. How can someone else possibly identify your brilliance if you're struggling to identify it yourself? And this is why in the building and powering up of confidence, it really helps to have a coach who by being objective with it, can help you say, okay, all right, that exists here, and this exists there. What do you want to do about that? Right? Your highest potential is probably not going to be in making micro refinements to the low end that you weren't really that great at anyways. But that thing you're really, really good at, you could probably make it a lot better, a lot faster than most people. Ooh, what does that look like? We all have an area of genius, some of us many, where if we kind of bring the genius of our sincerity and our capacity together and make a difference in the world, wow, that starts to become something that an interviewer could get confident about. If I'm an interviewer and I'm interviewing you for a job, what I'm really looking for is, can you load me up with the confidence that I can sell you forward to my boss and say, I like you, I want to hire you, and I'm going to tell my boss why we must hire you. If I can tell my boss why you, then the confidence that you've given me as an interviewer has transferred to me with clear language and conviction that I can then in turn represent on your behalf. And this is why it's really powerful to determine what's your core messaging. The greatest gift of an interview question many of us get right off the top is, tell me about yourself. Wow, what a golden opportunity. If you haven't taken the time to evaluate, hey, oh yeah, there's a span. I don't necessarily want to talk about this part. I could talk about this part. There is this part that I really believe in and I know I have possibility to make a great impact with. But then there's this that happened on the way to the meeting. We can all kind of like figure out, what energy are we going to occupy? And the more we power up confidence around the core aspects of our value proposition, the visionary aspects that make us really want to work in the first place, that allow us to see that, the value we create really does make a difference. We are seen, we are heard. And we're going to be seen and heard when we're operating from our purest, most powerful place. And when we're in our purest, most powerful place, confidence flows much more easily. Now, there's also other circumstances to consider. Not every boss is kind. Maybe some of us have heard some detrimental things in our upbringing or environments. Maybe on the home front. Maybe with a boss, maybe with a client. Maybe the thing that you used to think you were awesome at, maybe you're having trouble feeling you're awesome with because maybe last time you did it, it didn't resonate. Or maybe your last boss had a really bad day and came and took some of it out on you. And then you allowed that to become part of your story. It's very easy for criticism to be embraced as part of a narrative. I'd like to encourage you to look at that kind of thing, like as well. Maybe they're slivers, when you get a sliver and it kind of hurts and it's there for a long time, and then you just kind of pick it out and you say, well, maybe that's not me, or maybe that is me, and these are the 3 steps that I'm going to take to come at things differently now. So there's confidence in knowing we can change. There's confidence in knowing that we don't have to repeat the same lessons over and over again if we got it for real. And maybe one of those lessons for you is fit. Maybe the last place you were at wasn't the best fit. That's okay. Doesn't invalidate you as a human. Doesn't invalidate you as a value generator. In fact, we're all value generators. Everyone here on this call that's going to be hired is being hired because you're creating some value. Someone's saying, yeah, I value your time. I value your art. I value your management. And so part of our job while we're in transition, as we narrow the lens of focus in on that area where we create the greatest value, where we're really making an impact, we decide what we would like the world to say yes to about us. What do we want to place our confidence in? For me, a few years ago, looking back at all of the coaching and teaching, everything I've done, I was like, wow, I really love improving the people dimension of business. The human dimension of business is wonderful. We're all very complex people. Certainly in arts, creativity, and media, the sensitivities that we're blessed to be able to meet in meeting and working with people like that. Wow, we can take that in and recognize, hey, well, maybe you're a sensitive person too. And maybe there's a role for the sensitive person. Maybe the sensitive person is going to pick up on ideas and notions faster than someone who's running heads down with a football and a helmet on. And different people are required, and different attitudes are required for different functions. Right? So one of the questions I would like you to consider as we go is like, what would you like the world to be confident in you about? Right? Maybe we can always trust you to ask the deep questions. Maybe we can trust you to follow through swiftly without asking. Maybe we trust you to follow through while questioning deeply. Is this the wisest thing to do, and how? Different people need different kinds of people, and different environments need different kinds of people. And remember that rejection is wisely considered as redirection. Maybe you're amazing at your craft. Maybe you were really a perfect fit for that last place you interviewed at, but somehow didn't get the role. Maybe it had nothing to do with you. Maybe there's a whole other power play going on. Maybe they'd already picked their candidate, but had to fill out a form saying, yeah, they interviewed 3 people. Maybe they didn't know how to reflect back, hey, you're a really great candidate, and when we have a space for you, we'd love to work with you. I think there's real power in maintaining our confidence, not just through the networking and the interview, but also the follow-through process. I'm sure there's some folks on a call here who've had that experience. You've gone in, had a great interview. Crickets. Now what? Okay, they haven't told you what's next. Maybe you sent that wisely crafted, brief, kind, nice touch point, thank you email that day. Wise practice. But then it follows, 3-4 days later, you haven't heard anything. Well, I would encourage you to embrace strategic optimism in that case and be confident in your continuing of the discussion. And you can be light about it, excited to pick up our discussion at your earliest convenience. Thanks so much for your time Thursday. And really acting and speaking like you are the person. It makes it really effortless for them to see you acting that way. If your energy is a match for the role that you want, it's easy to cast you in the role. And for some people, right, that's right down to optics. Do you dress the part of the agency that you want to work for? Or the role you want to occupy? Do you find the language that inspires your clients to say yes? What does a client need to know about you to be rooted in the confidence that yes, you're the right person? And if you find yourself over-explaining yourself or over-explaining your history, maybe pause and take a look at that and go, is that real confidence? Am I nervously filling the gaps? Am I hoping they're going to check every last box they've got? Take a breath. Slow down. Let them feel you at a deep level. If they can feel your confidence coming from a real place, oh, it's so reassuring. Because I bet everybody on this call wants to do great work. I bet everybody on this call loves doing great work. And I bet everybody on this call loves doing great work with great people. And I bet everybody's got a slightly different idea of what that looks like. So as you confidently fashion your tuning fork and know that there are other people like you who like to work with the same spirit that you do, confidently finding your tribe becomes a really important part of shaping a work paradigm that you can really say yes to with all parts of yourself. And I know some people are just like, for a while it seems like, we got to just do the necessary, and satisfy the material question. I mean, certainly when I started my career, it was like I went to work so that I could be free at night to do art, music, and philosophy and all those things that I was intrinsically finding fun. But then when I found ways to incorporate those and to deepen my engagement with the work that I was doing, I found I brought more of myself to work. And when you bring more of yourself to work, you bring more value. You're probably going to be paid better, because the level of energy you're contributing is contributing to a greater level energetic success. Some people want to go, park somewhere for a while, flatline, not necessarily It's not necessarily the best thing to do, right? There are things you could do in your sleep, sure. But the things you do when you're like on the edge of yourself, really excited and energized, wow, you feel the natural confidence of using your talents. There's something really powerful about using your talents. And, I think if you even just pausing and going, hey, what are the three greatest strengths that people recognize in me? That would be that would be an interesting research. Maybe as you link back and you may be having networking conversations with people you might have worked with along the years, and you say, oh, hi, Hannah. We haven't connected in a little while, but I'm currently going through transition. You popped into mind, and I'd really welcome your perspectives. Would you be open to a Zoom call sometime over the next week or two? Maybe even propose a couple times. And maybe inside of that, like when you're looping back with someone, take very like real, sincere interest. If you're not interested in what they're up to, then why the hell would they be interested in you anyways? Right? It's like, but if you're really interested in them and going, okay, well, how are they doing? Is there anything that you're doing or could you help them with anything? And maybe you even ask for their perspectives. I'm getting perspectives from various people I've worked with over the years to really distill what are my core strengths in crafting the perfect next phase in my career. When you work with me, what were your favorite aspects that I brought to work? And chances are people will remember some things that are about you that maybe they haven't even been prompted to think of for a while. Maybe you didn't even realize you were having impact in certain ways. But then when you hear back, you're like, oh, okay, right, I'm starting to see the trend. And to be able to really beautifully promise what you actually are so you can effortlessly deliver will help you build great trust at that thing that you're great at. And there's real confidence there. So thank you for joining us today. I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to turn the recording device off. Turn everybody's cameras on if you like, and we can go for a live group coaching session.